Good evening. If you have a mobile phone, if you'd like to put it on silent, please. Thanks very much. Right, a massive welcome to Tony Topping with, slight change of title, Tales from a UFO Continuum. Tony Topping is the target of a covert interest group who knew about his UFO encounters, and in an exclusive talk to New Horizons, he goes very deep into his experiences using remote viewing. Audience participation is invited. Tony brings hot off the press information and an unorthodox opinion on how disclosure is working. His deep experiences continue, and he will go even deeper into the self-reflection of the encounter experience. So please welcome Tony Topping.
Good evening. Hello there. Good evening, everyone. Yes, good evening. Well, my name is Tony Topping, and for those of you, I think there's some new faces here, so I'm gonna, for those of you who have already seen me before and have seen, I'm gonna go over some slightly old ground, just so that new people can get familiar with who I am and what I do. I'm often in the media. If it wasn't for St. Anne's, St. Anne's is normally a test bed for me with my research as to where I can go with it and where I can launch with it. And really, my driving engine. We were talking about this, me and Rob, earlier. The situation is that we have a situation where we've got new laws coming in to do with domestic extremism and domestic terrorism and all that kind of thing. And there's a possibility that people like me could be targeted by such individuals because we are we're classed as some sort of subversive, some sort of situation could occur where we're classed as domestic extremists. But the thing is this, is that I'm a gentleman who is being targeted by a covert interest in the pursuit of understanding the UFO phenomena. I had a group of individuals who are still out there, and I'm angry and I resent it that we have a group of individuals out there in the public domain who come under the banner of secrecy, who are a covert interest group who have targeted people like me and others and made their lives a living hell. I'm angry about it, I don't like it, and it's disgusting. What has gone on is absolutely disgusting, and I was targeted neurally and targeted with mind control. Now, before I go into the talk, this is brand new material. Tonight for St. Anne's it was going to be mystery school. We were going to convert it into a mystery school, but my dear friend Sue, she couldn't make it this evening. She's in the audience tonight, but what we did is we've changed it round, and I emailed Rob, and I said to Rob, what the hell am I going to do, blah, blah, blah. And luckily for me, over the past month, brand new material, new images, UFO stuff, and I hope you're going to like it very much. What we're going to do, it's an interactive evening, and we're going to demonstrate a very important concept this evening, which is all about the continuum. So it's, all about the bass, as the song goes. This is all about the continuum. You may not know what the continuum is. That doesn't matter at the moment, that won't matter, but the information comes directly from my UFO encounters. And the important thing to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is this: it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. We can prove, beyond any doubt, with the mainstream paradigm that is around us, that none of this is happening. We can prove that I am a delusional man and I am a fantasist who is completely paranoid. We can prove that. The mainstream media can prove that. We can wheel on Dr. Chris French and we can prove that. However, nothing is further from the truth. What you're about to see genuinely happen to me is happening to me. I was targeted only yesterday morning by remote mind control technology, which is confidential to myself, and it's very nasty. So what I'm doing is I'm speaking in the public interest, and the man in particular, there's two men, but one man in particular who is responsible for all this. This information, I hope, will make you enjoy it. I hope you'll leave tonight with a better understanding of the UFO phenomena and what goes on. I'm actually going to explain a psychic warfare thing that goes on behind the scenes as well. It's very deep, very complex, but it'll be fine. And we're going to have a look at some remote viewing. We're going to study remote viewing. We're just going to have a look at it, not to do remote viewing, but to actually understand the process of what the mind does when it's engaged in an environment which is in higher space-time, which is in a higher mind place, all that kind of thing. And that's actually an image of a UFO, just to kick things off there, that's come out across the sky there, up in Germany. Germany's a very important place for UFO sightings, as we will see. What I think I wanted to do is show you these journals. These journals, ladies and gentlemen, are journals of what they did to me, and I'm angry about it, from 1999. Until now, really. These journals, these date from about 2001, and there's all sorts in there. And what would happen with venues like this, and it's all due to your good public who come to see me, with venues like this, what would happen, and in the early days at Probe and in the early days of other conferences, is I stand here and I'd go, they did this to me, they did that to me, they were going to do this, they were going to do that, and I wouldn't even have a PowerPoint. I've come a long way since then. And it would be fear, drama, fear, and the energy in the room would drop, and people just, it wouldn't be a pleasant experience for them. So what I'm trying to do this evening is to go deep into my experiences. They're my experiences. You could call me a Billy Meyer, you could call me an experiencer, whatever you want to call me. I have a friend in Sweden who I cross-correlate with because he's having the same interactions I am. He's not really in the public domain. He lives in a little village in Sweden, and he is cross-correlating what I'm seeing. So we've got a cross-correlation going on. Other friends are as well, including my good friend sat at the front here who's correlating. We're correlating stuff all together because it's the quality of the information. Anybody can stand here and spout any old claptrap, but it's the quality of the information. And in my journals, I was wondering what all this was all about. These journals go into all kinds of things that were happening to me, and I wanted to find answers. And the evolution of these answers began in 2014 for me, where I was dealing with two extraterrestrial groups. We call them groups of extraterrestrials, for those of you who don't know. There are two extraterrestrial groups I'm dealing with, and there was a focus, and there is a focus on one group. And so my journey this evening is about who, where, what, but the why this has happened is continually eluding me. The why, I just cannot get my head around why it's happening. I just still can't get my head around it. Everybody's cagey about it because in this environment you hold a deck of cards. You hold a deck of cards and nobody is telling you what deck you're holding, but they can see the hand that you're playing. So we're going to look at quite a few things. We've got whole new UFO footage and clips for you to have a look at, very kindly taken by my friends, especially for this talk. It's not gone anywhere else really. So enjoy, please do. So we're going to have a look first. I want to have a look at a few concepts. I want you to have a look at a man called Robert Dean. Is anybody familiar with Staff Sergeant Major Robert Dean? Yeah, two people, yeah, three, yeah. So, it's not, oh, you're Robert Dean. Is that your name?
Yeah, it's my namesake, yeah. When I first Googled my name, when I went on the internet, I thought, how am I a UFO expert in America?
Oh, he's a top guy. Oh, he's a top guy. And
it's very good.
very good. And he's very angry because, and this is one of the key things he said at the UFO conference at UFO magazine, the editor of which, UFO magazine, died aged 52 of a brain hemorrhage. It is very worrying that researchers, even researchers like myself in the thick of it, are targeted by unknown interests. It's very concerning for the democratic process, very indeed. This guy is Robert Dean. And it all began for me, really, the harassment started really when I rang NATO headquarters because I was looking for a document called the assessment. And so, like a naive fool, I just rang them. Shape headquarters rang them. This lovely Belgian lady who could speak English said, "No, I'm sorry, we do not have that here." Put the phone down. And as a result of that, I had a few days later, a man going up a telegraph pole with headphones on, the phone was tapped, and off we went. And it was all to do with it, but what we're looking at is, and that began a rather darkly comical journey into the world of covert interests and targeting. But what we're looking at is the work of Robert Dean. Now, this is the biggest secret of all about aliens. You'll read on the internet, you'll go on the internet, and you'll read that they are mantid, they're Draco, they're this, they're that, the other, they're greys, they're a winged reptoid. They won't tell you, however, that we look like them and they look like us. The biggest secret of all, in terms of UFOs and the people behind them, is that they look like us. And they do. And they're a bit taller, some of them are a bit taller, some of them are a bit smaller, but in a lot of cases the eye structure, the jaw structure, the colour of them, they'll look similar to us but they won't be like us. It took a bit of an adjustment. If one of them stood here now, you're talking about, I think it'd take you about a good 10 minutes to get used to it. But as Robert Dean says, and this is very true, your governments and the governments of this world do not believe that you're mature enough, do not think that you could handle the situation, and do not think that you are mature enough to understand that we are not alone in the universe. This causes, as we will discover later, a very bizarre, paradoxical situation that has taken me nearly 2 years to understand, based on years of being hounded and frankly effing tortured by goons and all kinds of things happening to me. It's taken me nearly 2 years to crack it, but I have done. And this is what my story is about. It's about me cracking these journals and understanding what's going on, and it's about you understanding a little bit more other than what you're reading on the internet about the UFO situation. Now, the NATO did something called the assessment. The assessment was all about, it was a top secret document to assess the UFO situation because the UFOs caused armed conflict at the height of the Cold War. What happened was you had UFOs coming in over the Soviet Union and UFOs coming over the Allied side, and the Russians thought that the Americans was attacking them, and the Americans thought the Russians were attacking them, and it nearly caused World War III. So NATO did something called the assessment. NATO are very deeply involved in the UFO situation, and NATO are also deeply involved in watching individuals who are targeted. They would be because they're a military organisation. And the conclusions reached by the assessment, which was done by NATO, was quite staggering. They said that we were and are the target of a service operation, sorry, a target of a survey operation, Freudian slip, by several extraterrestrial groups. No military threat, their technology is very advanced. There's a story behind that which I'll go into later about them being no military threat and communication with them. And by my guess is by hundreds of years their technology is more advanced than us. And I guess, I'm taking a wild guess due to a lifetime of experience, there could be some civilizations out there who are less advanced than us. There is a school of thinking by some of these guys in the Black Ops community who have done all this, and I don't know whether it's true, I'll just throw it out there to you, is that they have managed to see and have the technology to see reverse dimensions. So when they see the planet Jupiter, they've got the capability to see the reverse dimensional side of it, which tells a very different story to them. And speaking of reverse dimensions, there is one group in particular that is of a reverse dimensional nature, and the consequences of the individual who is the UFO contactee you won't read on the internet, you won't hear it on the internet, you won't see it on the internet. So what I'm about is about giving you information that you won't see on the internet, from what I hope is the real deal, for what I've lived through and been through. I hope so for you. So, my first UFO incident, just going over some old ground for those of you who don't know me, was in 1992, where I had a situation occur where I had a UFO coming over the house, and it hovered there like that. That's about inaccurate. And it was all flashing lights. It was like something out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You wouldn't mind just dimming the lights, somebody would you? Is that all right? It was like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It came over the house like that, and it hovered for a good 5 seconds, and then went on its way. And I was absolutely shocked. I was really shocked by it. I couldn't understand what was going on, and I wandered around for days, traumatized. And my first psychic contact with what you would term an extraterrestrial, my first actual psychic contact, was in about 1997, where I was fast asleep. I was actually asleep, and I was shown a vision. What you've got to imagine with UFO contact is they don't just come over your house, there's more to it than that. It's to do with reality constructs, it's to do with the alteration of the landscape of the dreams that you're having. They walk into your dreams. You'll know about it if they do, ladies and gentlemen, because they'll walk into your dreams. And behind all that situation are covert interests who are only interested in keeping this quiet. They don't think you can handle it, they don't think you're mature enough, and they think you'll run out the door. You're not running out the door at the moment, are you? No, you're not, because you can handle it, and you can handle it. What I get very angry about is what I came across and what they did to me, which was absolutely disgraceful. And you should be angry about that, because it's not very good. But Robert Street, that's my old house in Robert Street, and I'm fast asleep, and my mother had an old dresser. She had this old Victorian dresser, and next minute I know, I'm asleep, I recall it quite well, this woman walks into my dreams as clear as day. We weren't just dreaming, it was like some sort of artificial reality, Inception type thing. In she comes, blonde hair, blue-eyed, tying her hair back, and she turns around to me and just says, "How do I look?" Now, is that somebody gaslighting, or is that a genuine experience? I think it was a genuine experience, because there was no doubt in my mind that she was who she was, yeah? And radiating with health. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, this image here is as close as we will get to her. The closest we will get to what she looked like, but she radiated more health. The eyes were less prominent, the eye area there was less prominent, but blue, more blue-eyed, yeah? This was taken at a UFO conference, where it is claimed that that woman was a hybrid ET, so it is claimed. It's actually, as I understand it, I'm using her as an example, bless her, but it's actually Stan Romanek's daughter, from what I'm told. If you don't know who Stan Romanek is, he's a guy who was involved in an ET hoax with a big inflatable ET, but he went very deeply into the UFO situation and was then taken away on child porn charges by the Department of Homeland Security. Now, what is very worrying is that, according to Steve Bassett of the UFO Disclosure Group, who's doing the Citizens UFO thing, he's been greatly concerned over the fact that they've got researchers being poisoned. Researchers, one guy, his first name is James, he was looking at artificially intelligent UFOs, which is something that is really, really wild, frankly, and I'll come to that later. But they did his family did a toxicology report to discover that he had unusual levels of high poisoning in his bloodstream with unusual chemicals from mercury to lead, and it had killed him. Philip Coppins as well, who was looking at something called the Gulf Breeze 6 incident, where some military men had contact with a UFO, and the UFO was giving them predictions. So it can be a dark area, it really can. But what we're looking at there is the closest, I think, to what she actually looked like, but the eyes were a lot bluer. That's a fantastic example, is that, ladies and gentlemen? It really is. That's my stage school that I went to, which was the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts. I had a lot of fun there, and nothing really happened with the UFOs until I left that stage school, and I had an incident in Paddington, in Praed Street, Paddington, in about 95 it was, where I thought a UFO was going to crash into a block of flats. It came across the street like that, nearly went into a block of flats. I nearly ran for a fire engine and said, look guys, that thing's going to crash into a block of flats, and it vanished. And that will be the start for me of many interactions to come with them that will lead us penultimately to what I'm going to show you tonight. What I'm showing you tonight all comes from them at a very drip level. So this is what we're looking at, and very interesting in it as well. This is I'm sure those of you who know me have seen this before, but for those of you who don't know me, I call this my primary UFO incident. This is a situation that occurred during an incident in 1999 where the UFO came in and is going to illuminate a TV antenna. Now, it is as a result of that UFO coming in that I started having some very strange goings-on indeed. And what would happen is, if you're monitored by a covert interest group, no matter who they are, and we've got to make the very important distinction of those who are out in the police protecting us from crime and the people I speak of, which is a very, very different ballgame altogether. A very different ballgame altogether. Now, what we've got here is the UFO coming in. It's going to illuminate a TV antenna. It was in 1999, and it's got three kind of domes on it. It rotates, it goes backwards. It went on ITV this morning. Dr. Chris French said it's a helicopter, as it promptly reverses backwards on its own. It just reversed backwards. It's on no approach corridor. It doesn't even have a civilization strobe sequence. It was sent for image analysis. The analysis concluded that it was a UFO. Of that there is no doubt. So that's the incident that led to me getting harassment, and it got a bit crazy, ladies and gentlemen. She knows, because I believe, it is my belief, you don't have to believe it, it's my belief, that this is a female pilot. I believe that she is not of this earth. I believe that she's non-human intelligent, and she's just about to go behind the tree. The craft is under intelligent control. I assure you that I've been buzzed by UFOs. Little dots of light have come after me. We were up in Crawley about 2 years ago, and we kept getting annoyed by one. We used one of these. We attempted to use one of these. It backed off us because it can get risky. So we kind of like, we were using a laser pen to just try and signal. Which you're not supposed to do, as I understand, so we packed that in. But basically, when one of them comes near, it is rumoured that a laser pen will get them away from you. So she's going to go behind the tree. She then realises that she's gone behind the tree, and I won't be able to see her, and now she can't see me, so she comes out again. So what we've got is two manoeuvres there, and then that resulted, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure some of you who know me will know of this, but for those of you who don't, this resulted in what's known as an unmarked helicopter incident. And what happened is that we had a helicopter that we've had recently, in the past 2 weeks, a further military incident over the town with UFOs and aircraft, which I'm going to show you. But what happened then is the helicopter just appeared from nowhere there, and it hovered over a roof. It just hovered over the rooftop, and then it kind of like went across a road, and that's it there. And it went for analysis, did this helicopter. This helicopter is not on issue to any special forces in the UK. It's on issue to American, and it's on issue to Brazilian and Canadian forces, but the RAF don't actually have one. They use a different type of helicopter than the RAF Special Forces. They use an Augusta, an Italian. This is an AS555 helicopter, what we're seeing here. Now what happens is that the helicopter then does this most unusual manoeuvre, as if it's out of a Jason Bourne film, in that it hovers above that lamppost there, at that height. That's a very fine example of it hovering across the canal of fishermen who start absolutely protesting and screaming and putting their hands on their hips. Cars are popping the horns. That helicopter is hovered there and he's side on to me. He was side on to me here, ladies and gentlemen, on the previous slide. He was side on to me on the previous slide there. That's his modus operandi in flight. I noticed that he was side on. He was never on me vertically, he was always side on to me, because he had to be, because he was taking signature analysis measurements. Hard to understand, I know, but the helicopter is bristling with camera gear, hence him, and measuring equipment, hence him going across the road junction to be side on to me.